Welcome to all here today. As we gather in this beautiful venue, let us also acknowledge that we are on the unceded ancestral lands of the Piscataway and Necochitink and Anacostan people. We acknowledge their descendants, specifically the Piscataway Conoy tribe and the Piscataway Indian Nation, and pay our respects to them as the original inhabitants of the land on which we gather today.
Good afternoon. I'm Rebecca Roberts. I'm the curator of programming here at Planet Word. We're up here under the rafters of this beautiful historic building, the Franklin School, which was built in 1869 to accommodate that huge burst of population that came to Washington during and after the Civil War. And we have these great 19th century photographs of students at the time doing their sums on the chalkboards or studying biological specimens. And we really take that educational legacy seriously. We're really proud of it. But at Planet Word, we're only exploring one subject, the joy and wonder of words and language. And what an amazing subject, right? Because if you find the joy and wonder in words and language, you become a writer, or a linguist, or a lyricist, or a speechwriter, or a poet. So thank you all for finding that joy and wonder in your hearts, in your work, in your communities. And we're very, very proud to have you at Planet Word.
This is such a great place. I hope you all get a chance to look through it. I'm Crosby Kemper. I'm the director of the Institute of Museum and Library Services, as we like to say, the largest cultural agency of the federal government. A drop in the bucket of what actually happens in culture in this country, but we're very proud of what we do, and nothing we do makes us happier, is more fun, is more our gift to the nation than supporting what the Alliance does and what you do as our national student poets. So it's 10 years on. We've been doing this for 10 years. It's our anniversary, and what have we learned out of all of this? Bill Shipstein yesterday had his great stories about Nobel Prize winner Seamus Heaney, one of the great poets, and I love Heaney's work. I chose to read the Nobel Prize lecture of another great Irish poet, William Butler Yeats, a few days ago, and I was interested in the fact. The thing that struck me was he started by giving an encomium to Lady Gregory and John Millington Synge, the great poet, the great playwright, playboy of the Western world. It sounds exciting and fun. It's actually pretty depressing, but Lady Gregory, of course, was his sponsor, his muse, his friend, his partner, as was Synge. They started the Abbey Theater together. They had colloquia at Coole. You might read Yeats's poem, The Wild Swans at Coole, which he wrote in his youth in Lady Gregory and Synge's presence. And I was thinking about the gift of poetry that these student poets give to us, to all of us. Ada Limon gives to us. Seamus Heaney gave to us. What is the gift that we're giving? If we give any gift at the IMLS and the Alliance and our partners, Scholastic, et cetera, it is the gift of creating a company of poets. Louise, I thought yesterday was much better than I am at describing that company and what it means over a period of time. But it's the creation of an audience. It's the creation of advisors and revisers. It's the critics and inspirers of poetry. We all need that in our lives. We all need a company of those who support and sometimes criticize. And I think that is one of the great gifts of what happens here today, what happened last night, will happen tonight, what will happen in the White House, et cetera. And it's the gift, it's a gift of love. And so I'll end by doing it. My late ex-father-in-law, Brendan Gill, who was a New Yorker writer, a won a National Book Award for one of his novels in the early 50s, but he always loved to give the gift of Emerson. So I will give the gift of Emerson to you as I sweep off the stage. Give all to love, obey thy heart, friends, kindred, days, estate, good fame, plans, credit in the muse, nothing refuse. Stealing grace from all alive. Hardly know when the half-gods go, the gods arrive. Now the gods.
Well, thank you, Crosby. My name is Chris Wisniewski, and I am the executive director of the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers, which is the nonprofit organization that presents the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, as well as the National Student Poets Program, in collaboration with our partners at the Institute of Museum and Library Services. I want to thank Planet Word for hosting us today. They've been incredibly gracious and generous, and we're thrilled to be in this absolutely beautiful institution celebrating these poets together. I want to thank our partners at the IMLS. To call them a funding partner, it would be to diminish all of the other tremendous programmatic support that they provide for this program. It is a genuine, deep and real collaboration, and it is a pleasure to work with the entire team of the IMLS. We're very grateful. I want to thank my colleagues at the Alliance for Young Artists and Writers, as well as Kelly, our Forsyth, our publicist, our board of directors, who make all of this work possible. And a real special, deep, heartfelt thanks to Olivia Morgan. It is kind of heartbreaking to me that we are here gathered as a National Student Poet Program community, and that Olivia is in Washington, D.C., but not in this room with us because she tested positive for COVID. But we miss her, and it is no exaggeration to say that this program would not be without the deep commitment that she has put into it for these past 10 years. So just a hand for Olivia, wherever you are, we're thinking about you. And now we get to hear readings from each of the 5 new National Student Poets. We will start with the National Student Poet of the Southwest, Jessie Begay.
Hello, today I will be reading a poem titled Anatomy of a Man and Wife. For Joyce. A boy has barrels for eyes, muskets in his right and water in his left. His faithful snout is gutter dirty, meant for licking arteries out of bodies. There is a heart between those bars of ribs. It was just not meant for you. He offers you a trade, a taste of his highway life for your still unraveling womanhood. And those obligatory truths traded between lovers are spelled wrong with missing vowels and taped consonants. There's nothing I can tell you. Dangers are written out. Can't have the liability on my hands, he says. Can't keep kicking the bucket further down the road. Every road ends somewhere. These things are give and take. These things are denial and loss. These things are denial and realization. So tell me, when did you wake up in a bed with your father, reaching for the skin of white housewives and shedding the look of a dreamless Indian? When did you wake up married to someone beyond peripherals, graduating to the nonfiction sections to scrape at the skin of bruised peaches and check for cracked eggs? When did you get to be so grown up? His fingerprints were licked clean by acid. You are a ghost. You could count the number of truths he has told on one hand. 1, you love him. 2, you don't want to. 3, all men are like him. 4, you do not want to be a man. 5, you have to be. This next poem is titled Pocahontas. In my dreams, your voice echoes like valleys, and I've seen you in my childhood home, held to the exposed bricks and the creeping cold. I've heard each ring crack the porcelain, laid beside my bloodstains in the basin. I like 'em older, I like 'em stronger, I like 'em violent. I like when they ball their fists to planets, asteroids to impact the minuscule moons that compose what is left of the girl I used to be, all of the pockets of knowledge she hid in space. I know how to tell a man's strength from his voice, how quickly they sing when subjected to pleasure, how loudly they denounce their sons and almost daughters. I know how to tell a man's love from his eyes, if it is what I want, a backhand bound to a mantra, or if it is what I need, a body cocooned in prayer. I know how to tell a man's honesty from his words, if he'd hide the measure of want we pretend we don't have, if that skill would be waiting beneath each eyelash. I want your hands sewn into fists, your voice tied to stampedes, your shoes melted to rope, and your mouth welded to unyielding fireworks. Where I'm from, the moon can be seen at night because the sun relents to no woman. Where I'm from, police badges are molded like branding because impact makes conviction known. Where I'm from, we don't say stuff like this. We say it like this. I want you to kiss me like my father. I want you to hit me like you mean it. I want you to love me like a man. Thank you.
The National Student Poet of the Southeast, Winslow Hasty.
Okay, so today I'll be reading To Court a Bird of Paradise. In courtship display, the male performs a ballerina-like dance with its elongated black plumes spread around skirt-like, right below the iridescent breast shield. During the spectacular dance, he shakes his head and neck rapidly to show the brilliance of his inverted silver triangle-shaped head adornment to attending females. IUCN Red List of Threatened Species. Dance requires precision. Like clockwork, timing is everything. The position of feet to the expression on their face, prose stripped to the necessary. Sucking the sweet marrow from bone, the peacock spider. Smaller than a grain of rice, it waves its arms mockingly, taunting the female to follow. Slowly raising his colorful tapestry behind him, minuscule but elaborate, every word should be sophisticated. The dance of a bird in courtship, each one unique. The parotia, feathers of wire and sequin, first creating a stage, barren of its growth and fallen foliage, dirt. It begins a dance, shuffling from side to side, wings folded into a tiara, snapping back its iridescent plumage, pops into existence. A final attempt to win her over, only seen by the female as she watches from above. If read carefully, the poem's essence will be exposed. The plume of feathers too vibrant to be natural, a dance of two potent deer gouging each other for a doe, blood, red ink drips across the white page, straining to make an intricate puzzle, an unstable tower, threatening to topple with just one misplaced word. My next poem is titled To Dissect a Pine. After the first frost, when the mosquito larvae freeze and the reptiles hide away, buried in the mud, we re-enter the wood. Recruited many winters ago by my father, we hike deeper each year. Stepping over our past discoveries, left stripped and rotting, we navigate down shallow gullies, past deer antlers, caked in dried duckweed, and hollow turtle shells nestled in the cypress knees. Steeping into its dark purples and golden oranges, the wood ages in its own sap, crystallizing. We crack them like geodes, taking hatchet to wood, filleting the golden flesh threaded with purple veins. We carve strips from the backbone, laying them out on red embers. They hiss, sweat bubbling up from the cracks. It's been a couple years since we have explored the woods. The swamp left undrained has seized our searches, in which we would hack away at the petrified wood, long, drawn-out silences interrupted by each swing of the axe. Thank you.
The National Student Poet of the Midwest from the great state of Wisconsin, Emily Iguike.
Hello, everyone. My first poem will be How I Met the Sun. I am a damnation of earth, a poisonous creation of a broken rib, mud, and tears. I am the daughter of rage, the tempting skin of time swallowed, the companion of darkness. I played with the shadows. The dirt blessed my braided head, and the grave sang hymns as I danced. Peering from the roots, I found the only thing I was ever afraid of. The sun smiled as I squinted at its power, my eyes filled with wonder or worry, as when you leave the cave, your eyes whisper to you that the darkness will never be the same. Standing, scorching, smiling back at its golden rays, fear subsiding, replaced with burning anger that I was never an acquaintance with the only source of light on earth. Was I really at home, rotting with the buried corpses? Or was I convinced all these years that from the dust I was created, and to the dust I would return? My next poem is My Mother Prepares Ofe Egusi. Where are you going? Where have you been? My mother asks as I glide through the door. Feet swollen from traversing these infinite deserts, dry air turned oxygen bleeding into veins, searing at my heart, no longer in accord to her. Gray matter in a shawl, silent space that sits across from me, she, aware of my absence and the presence of this heavy weight, reaches, pulling my hand. A million miles reconvened. A single step turned to silent truce, silent praise for the return of a prodigal. A steaming pot of egusi fills my void and the space in this quaint kitchen. Her smile is weathered, our paths trodden. A mother once young sees herself in this shattered mirror. Piece by piece, she picks me up, puts me back together, even if her nimble fingers are cut, offering her blood in the process. She says, Ada, tell me what's wrong. Tears swimming in her eyes, she knows, she fears the paths we've taken have now diverged, an ocean separating our pasts, our stories. I offer a smile, weak and abashed, tugging on fleeting hope, trying to be a daughter to the shadow of a woman. Inching towards the bowl that sits patiently between us, my fingers graze the pounded yam. Breaking this yam, this silence, I tell her I was lost. Drowning with time, passing like the wind, she asks me where I am going. I dip the yam in the soup, lifting the burning bite to my lips. Here, I say. Home, I say. Thank you.
The National Student Poet of the Northeast, Vedatri Kita.
I will first be reading my poem, Generations. You take your hands and fold them together, tear them apart and feed them to the fire. I usher you out, tell you that your skin is not paper, that the flames do not care for pain. They won't liberate you, won't designate purity or godhood. You won't stop, won't listen. You say the writhing flame has long stolen your soul, enlivening the lost pulse to your vigor. Later, we sit there together underneath the stars, grounded by maths and the earthen promise of our predecessors. Piles of sticks lie before us, burning into themselves. Your hands blacken as the night stirs in her anger, pouring shadows across our movements. The moon is lightless tonight, No sliver of truth is left to guide us. I am sorry for having to leave you here to become prey to snakes and parasites, but I have nothing else left. I can't continue living so close to the earth, can't fathom a life dependent on cycles of sun and rainwater. The monsoons no longer beckon my heart. The child within me has become a wanderer. She frequents the desert sands and lifeless valleys of her mind. Will you forgive her this once for dreaming the night sky, for wishing to emulate the warmth of stars, the depth of their innocence, their intangibility? I hate how I reach up and you don't even try to stop me from burning myself like you do. Okay, so my second poem is entitled Contemplations. The skylight stirs in spinning clouds, wings of wind and airborne dreams collapsing into gasps of mist and fog. Today, I will stare across pavement, streaks of ice bleeding through skin, immobilizing my feet with fleeting numbness. The river runs so red it turns black blood into foamy water clothed in ice, floating ice. You were only one of them, one of the listeners, staring out the window at the sea and imagining you could see it, imagining you could revel in its dark humor. We pry open the doors to the sunset and yet never see it. Shadows disperse light like flocks of birds, glowing like fragments of shattered glass in the midwinter. You sigh to me in the meantime. The stairs loom like broken stone, the hanger onto which we unfold until planed floors stretch outward before us. You say, well, if I fell through the cracks, perhaps beckoned by the luscious streams peeking through the ripped darkness, like the primrose sunlight at dawn, it would perhaps be a good thing, because then I wouldn't have to be here tomorrow, wouldn't have to wade through noxious gases and fear that blood would pave pathways out of the heart, pooling at the shoreline and drying out capillaries until each fingertip could no longer properly type out a word, couldn't write anything either. Maybe like thorns, except growing inward and stabbing mercilessly on the daily. I pause. You weren't allowed to feel this way. Only I was allowed to be broken. I didn't know what to do when you said you were too. Well, maybe the mist that shrouds the river doesn't willingly hide its secrets. Maybe fog is a facade that consumes, not displays. It is not a curtain that is so easily ripped away. Really, I despise it, the suffocation, the inability to claim injustice through the damaging of my pride. Perhaps tragedy is only thinly veiled by distrust. The darkness of the world is so difficult to decipher. I walk through the sheets of blood, the whispers of walled hyacinths, stretching toward black water. I'm merely running toward the shore, wishing to catch the current that would wake me up, take me away. Tell me, what is it that you fear the most? Death, pain, misery, the molten heart of frost, or perhaps the cold makes you alive and more understanding of the world. I don't know, I couldn't tell you. The masks I wear are only masks that I can't hide. The real fears are the shadows, the dust that devours my heart, devours the sky.
And last but certainly not least, the National Student Poet of the West, Diane Sun.
Some very difficult acts to follow, but I'll have two poems for y'all. My first one, A Recipe for Steaming Almost Dragon, will come with two translations at the beginning. First, Long Men means the dragon gate. In Chinese mythology, carps that leap over a gate, the dragon gate, over a waterfall become dragons. Second, Qingzheng Long, which means steamed dragon. A recipe for steaming almost dragon. Every few centuries, when the carp gathered at the base of the Longmen, riled in thunder clouds with legend and youth, we waded into the brinks of the waterfall and waited. That night, we would feast upon Qingzheng Long. First, check for freshness. Its scales should be taut, a bowstring still drawn long after the arrow has departed. Its eyes should be clear, a divine glimmer of a future once promised. Its gills should be stark red, the intrusion of fate into viscera. Second, dress it to your liking. With a blade, furrow its body in angles such that its exterior still lays neatly. Only you should be aware of the aromatics buried in its torso, of the ginger rooted in its nervous system, of the scallions that replaced arteries. Third, steam for 7 minutes. In death, we replicate glory with an opiate haze. Here we unwind the dreams tucked in little carp skulls, the lacy hemlines of cascades, the rumble of cast iron gates opening, the pale heat of the heavens. Taste, flesh cleaved from the mountainside, skin sheened in gold, and bones that prickle at the roof of the sky, still with the slight tang of thunder. My second poem is titled Celestial Bodies. A body folded and stitched together from each corner of the universe, constructed of everything that has been and ever will be, and yet not enough. Comets trace arms, wrists awash in debris, pinching anomalies nebulas form on skin, throats lined with the bile of galaxies, purging ice and stardust in solar systems. They were supernovas, ephemeral, waning, once stars, now black holes. They were the moon adrift from Earth, hung in gravity like an askew painting, colliding with one another in envy, spiraling in exhaustion. This is the nodder, the dark matter, the part they hid in the folds and the stitches. Still, they are constellations, the shapes found amongst the stars, the humans amongst the heavens. Still, they are Venus reborn, in all her dusky glory a pearl cupped in gold. Still, they are full moon-faced, cratered from the kisses of long-gone meteors, still composed of the interstellar, starlight stitched into their seams. This is the acceptance of the umbra, the stars aligning to create flesh. This is everything that has been and ever will be, the body and cosmos in syzygy, the zenith. Thank you.
The class of 2022 National Student Poets. So I was in a car with Diane and Vedatri earlier today, and Diane asked me, how do you all pick a keynote speaker for this event? And the reality is that Hannah, Miranda, Dennis, Kelly, and I are like on a Zoom call, and we say like, well, who should we invite? And then I think Hannah says, well, you know who would be amazing is Naomi Shihab Nye, if we could ever possibly get her. And you're like, well, it's worth a try. And then she says yes. And to introduce her, I was going to share a few lines from a beautiful poem that she wrote for this museum. There's a broadside that you will purchase the next time that you come and visit the museum, because you must, because it's a beautiful place and really thoughtful. And you'll be in the gift shop and you'll see this broadside and you will have to have it because the poem is so moving. And I was going to share some words, but then Naomi mentioned that she was actually going to share some, and we all know that it'll be much better to hear her share her poetry with us. So we'll leave that to this incredible poet who's joined us today, and really just a delight. So I'll stop talking because we are so excited to hear from you. Naomi Shihab Nye.
Really powerful poems, everybody. That was so wonderful. We're home. We're at Planet Word. Courage. A word must travel through a tongue and teeth and wide air to get there. A word has tough skin. To be let in, a word must slide and sneak and spin into the tunnel of the ear. What's to fear? Everything. But a word is brave. And so are you. Look where you are right now. This magical place waiting for all of us, built from a great dream. Special thanks to the National Students Poet Program and Planet Word and everyone who has worked so incredibly hard to put this together, to all the parents, the teachers, to all your friends who believe in you. Everyone who believes in language as connection and carries the hope of being heard is brave. Congratulations to you and to all of you. I am so proud to be with you today. I probably would have walked here from San Antonio. I feel like I'm getting married. Don't tell my husband. Thank you for letting your voices go out into the air and for inviting me. Already you know that your poems matter even before someone else reads them. You calm down inside as a written energy starts stirring. But when someone else reads you or responds to you with an understanding or a spark or a new shine of insight, that joy is doubled, tripled. My favorite poet, William Stafford, used to say, "An artist is someone who lets the material speak back." Probably some of you frequently converse with animals, trees, clouds, the way we all started doing more in recent years. And I know they speak back to you too. You speak to yourselves and you frequently answer. That group poem you did was so perfect. That's how we live. We're imagining the voices of one another popping up with the next line. A poet lives in a friendlier, more animated universe. Everything has a story. Everything might respond. What a gift, a sustenance. Words from inside and outside your own head and the endless lovely ways they mix and mingle, opening up new chimes of meaning. The practice of poetry has befriended you. Lucky you. It's a way to order your thoughts and memories, even to see what they are. It's a way to focus. It's cheap. It's portable. An old-fashioned spring of images, questions, ideas, and details continually refreshing themselves as you write, and you know you have more to write. You're never alone, and sometimes if you feel far from a poem in your day, all you have to do is slow down. Alberto Rios of Arizona says, "Stopping is the essence of poetry. To be stopped in our tracks these fast, full days." And it's fun. Look where we are. Poetry got us here. It's a deep breath. As poets, we also love line breaks and the space around the poem, honoring those particular words, and try to explain that to someone. As a 3-year-old, I already loved the space around, "I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too?" I thought that was the nicest thing I'd ever heard, and Emily Dickinson was my friend. And she has been. All the poets are. Look how wide your circle will be. For 22 years, I've carried around a little card written by a boy named James in the year 2000 when he was 10. Be the wind chime. Let the wind blow through you. Turn storm into song. Poetry is a place to stand back from our troubles and confusions and see them better. It's a place to explore the marvelous details we care about. It's been so comforting to know, through all the uncertainty and weirdness of the past few years, that we each had a planet of words waiting for us right inside, right? When the very courageous Amanda Gorman said her poem at President Biden's inauguration, it felt as if the soul came back into the body in a very public way. The words fit the moment. Words felt worthy again. Poetry tenderizes us. It helps us to be worthy of the preciousness of our own mysterious lives. Consider a day of Zoom workshops in 2020 with middle school students. At the top, their teachers told me the students were very depressed. They missed their classrooms and friends. They were very gloomy. Many of them said they just kept staring out their bedroom windows at gray parking lots. After asking them what else they'd been doing, one boy said, eating way too much. So I changed my topic. Not just eating, but where did they wish they could travel, and what did they want to eat when they got there? No one was traveling those days. By the end of the session, such delicious food poems had emerged, along with laughter, some typed into the chat box, some read out loud. A girl had written about traveling deep into Guatemala to sit with her grandma again and eat fragrant rice from a giant pot. And a boy typed into the chat box, "Just tell me, people, since when have I ever cried about rice?" Today, we all honor every one of you with all our hearts. My advice would be, keep it close and keep it simple. The great Ashley Bryan, if you don't know who he is, look him up, one of my heroes my whole life. He just died in January at age 98, and he wrote a book right before he died called Infinite Hope. Ashley Bryan said, "Find the child inside yourself every morning. Give yourself the gifts you need to keep creating. A little time, a little space, looking at art, being sustained by beauty, the reading of plenty of other poets to help inspire you. Meanwhile, a playful spirit, keep it if possible. It's necessary. Don't take criticism or even lack of response, the dull thud, too seriously. And learn to be a loving editor for yourself. Carry this wondrous day as a treasure all your lives. Your poems will help carry you." I'll close with that small poem I was so honored and overjoyed to write when Anne Friedman, founder of Planet Word, invited me to write it for the occasion. And if you haven't watched that inaugural opening ceremony for this place, I urge you to watch it and then watch it again because it's so inspiring. To every one of you, cheers. And thanks again, Chris, to all of you for inviting me. Welcome the word. Round in the mouth of the day, the word whirls and waits to be recognized, warming each time someone speaks or writes it. Words always willing to be shaped, cajoled, connected. Learn their histories, find their roots. Words have families too. Words want us to know them better. Slipped into lives, they blossom. Words get so lonely if they go a long time floating, weightless. You could carry a word all your life as a guide. It will shimmer, befriend you. Your word will change. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. That concludes our program. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. And now these young people have to perform for the First Lady.